Awesome. I'll take that prompt to go ahead and start. We are recording, so hold on. Let me share my camera and share my screen. All righty, everyone, welcome. Today is Thursday, June 20th, and welcome to the June Project Management Community Meeting. My name is Ed Puckett. I'm the co-chair. I share that responsibility with my partner in crime, Jen Birch. Would also like to thank and welcome our steering committee members who also help out with the program, and that includes Carol, Christina, Lisa, and John, who are on this call. Alex and Michael are not here yet. Last time I checked that participant panel, but that's okay. We're going to roll without them. So here we go. A couple of housekeeping items we need to just bring up is we definitely want people's participation. It's highly encouraged. But if you have a lot of background noise, be sure to mute yourself. You can always raise your hand or unmic on cue with a question when the time permits. Closed captioning or live transcription is enabled should anyone need that. If you have a question or comment, either unmute, enter it in the chat, or like I said, raise your hand. And we'll remind everyone once more that this session is being recorded. So takes care of our housekeeping items. We're gonna dive right on into our Agile moment presented by our Agile learned student, Christina. So take it away, Christina. I'll stop the share so that you can share.
Okay, you should be able to see the presentation now, right?
Absolutely, take it away.
Perfect. Okay. So just a little refresher for those of you who are on today. The Agile Moment is something we try to do almost every month. And the other thing, what we try to accomplish with this is to highlight an Agile value or principle, or explore how the Agile topic relates to the session topic, promote some reflection and discussion, and then have something that you can ideally take away and use in your work. So then what I wanted to do today is kind of focus on Agile in relation to business relationship management and see how those work together, and give a little bit of background there. That is not my expertise, so I have told the BRM experts who are here today that if I have misspoken or anything, please correct me, or expand or whatever you see fit. So there are some shared values between Agile and BRM. As far as relationship building, strategic thinking, creating sustainable workloads, delivering value and value management, having regular and meaningful communication, and creating supportive teams that, you know, everything is done with the intent of making things they're creating a good environment for those who are not only working on the project, but the stakeholders and everybody involved. So there are some key differences in Agile. A lot of it is focused on the moment-to-moment or short-term planning, and how to adapt quickly, whereas business relationship management has more emphasis on long-term strategy and objectives. Both methodologies play important roles, and so it's important to understand each separately and how they can come together to make everything work more efficiently. There was a chart that I found as well that kind of explained the difference. So if you look at how success is measured or what the goals are, there are some key differences between business relationship management and Agile. So things like success being defined by the quality of strategy and overall value in BRM versus success in Agile is about speed, accuracy, and then the quality of the value delivered. BRM focuses more on the strategy, roadmaps, creating blueprints, whereas Agile is very incremental. So that was some of the key differences. And then a great analogy that was also in the article that I read was talked about as if a project is a ship, and then Agile is the crew. So they're working to adjust the sails, stay on course in real time. Whereas BRM is the captain and other like leadership decision makers who are using the compass and the maps to determine, you know, the course as a whole. So I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it. And then as far as using BRM and Agile together, the Agile principles, the emphasis on continuous delivery, adaptability is really important for meeting those changing requirements and being able to be flexible, especially for those of us who are in IT and higher ed. But the obstacles exist as far as there's often a lot of confusion on, you know, is it supposed to be Agile or BRM, and not necessarily understanding how they can work together, and confusing some of the roles between, like for instance, a product owner in Agile versus somebody who would be from like the BRM team, and just confusion on who's taking the lead or how they work together, or, you know, if it's one, it's got to be one or the other. And so hopefully today, through all the presentation, we learn a little bit more about how those coexist. And then as far as success, when we merge those ideas together of long-term planning and continuous delivery, then ideally you break down the barriers of communication. A lot of us experience silos across our universities, even internal within specific departments and teams. So being able to use BRM and Agile together is just another great way to continue to deliver value, while also making sure that that value is what's right or what's needed for the community, how it's being received, and then making sure that that delivery is successful, and that you've got positive communication. And then, so that leads me into, I've given a very brief overview of BRM and Agile and those two concepts together. But what I wanted to do is ask those of you who are here today, if you are using BRM and Agile methodologies today, how it's managed where you are. And if you're not, do you see this as something that you could benefit from or would be able to use? So if anybody wants to unmute or put anything in the chat, I cannot see the chat right now. So Ed, if you can see it and want to,
I'm on it.
I'm in.
The question is, across the institutions represented on this call, how many of them are incorporating either Agile or BRM or both? I can break the ice a bit up. Here we come. At UC Riverside, says Edwin, we have both BRM and Agile. Awesome. So Edwin, are you using the Agile methodology across all of your projects, or is it used on selected projects?
We're kind of in transition. We're transitioning folks into the Agile methodology for overall development.
Mm-hmm.
But we also started the BRM role that is more dealing with the leadership of our stakeholders and trying to determine that overarching path forward for the organization from an IT perspective.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Edwin. Got App State. We are just getting started with formalizing our BRM program, but have implemented Agile several years ago. And I'm assuming, Ellen, you are aware that there is a BRM Community Group, so that would be a good resource if I could plug that group right before their presentation. And glad to see that you're here. Griselda says her department is in the process of implementing Agile. Unsure what others are using, if any. Princeton uses BRM for distributed IT support functions, and we've got another one from University of Montana, Agile and BRM, as well as adding change management capabilities to the PMO. And I could say from K-State, we have a BRM. her name happens to be Michelle. She'll be one of the presenters, but I don't want to steal her thunder, so I won't go much into that. But we have a mix of project methodologies. Most of our PMO is very formally trained in PMP through the Project Management Institute. I know our DevOps team is really centered on adopting agile methodologies for their work. They're not strict. If you were a Scrum Master or an Agile certified person and you sat in on their meetings, you'd say, ooh, they're not following everything, but they're making it work for their roles and what they do. It's kind of fascinating to watch. Yeah, cool.
I also wanted to add then, Ed, I've linked both our PMCG site and the BRMCG site for Educause in the slideshow. So if the slides are available after this, then both the intro slide and the end slide have those links. And then the article that I was looking to that I used is linked in here as well.
Excellent. So, and that reminds me, because I always forget to say this, so I'll say this to both you, Christina, and our presenters. I tend to load our recording to YouTube and to the Connect space on Fridays. So the sooner you can get those slides to me, I can include that in the Connect library space. I don't put the slides on YouTube. One, I don't know, just because I don't. I feel a little timid about putting that content out there for the whole world to see, at least the slides, that is, but the video stands by itself really well. So, and now that I've said that out loud on this recording, everybody in the whole world now knows that I'm nervous about putting slides out there for the world. So may produce some interesting comments on YouTube. That said, I think we are ready, and I won't even transition over to my slide because the very next slide says the title of this presentation. So we're going to kick over to our presenters. Understanding the role of business relationship managers, are often abbreviated as BRMs. Our presenters are Michelle Kaiser, Mark Sullivan, and Brandon Reese. So I hand the presentation over to the Masters of BRM, captains of the craft, to steal a word from Christina's presentation. You guys take it away.
Thank you, Ed. Yes, so we kind of resurrected the BRM Community Group within Educause a year ago, and couldn't really do it without the assistance of Mark and Brandon. And then we are working on partnering along with the BRM Institute. So the BRM Institute is to BRMs what the PMI is to the PM team, if you will. Stole that from Mark. He quoted that almost a year ago. And I'm like, yes, that is the best way to help others understand also the BRM Institute. And so we have the Educause BRM group, as well as the higher ed community over in the BRM Institute. And Brandon, I believe, is the one who created on LinkedIn the BRM higher ed group as well. I am going to go ahead and, well, I'll introduce myself, Michelle Kaiser, BRM for Kansas State University. Right now, I currently work with 4 groups and with my BRM capabilities, finance, parking, HR, and facilities, and looking to take on another group. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mark and Brandon, as I had to be out unexpectedly, and they've been able to put things together this week. So Mark and Brandon.
All right, so first of all, let me check. Are you seeing my presenter screen, or are you actually seeing the slideshow?
We see the slideshow.
Okay, great. Well, got that taken care of first of all. Yeah, my name is Mark Sullivan. I'm a BRM, been a BRM for a little over 7 years at Purdue University within the College of Agriculture. And I focus, Brandon and I both, and let Brandon introduce himself here in a minute, but we focus on our business partners, which are faculty. So we have over 300 faculty in the College of Agriculture. And for us, you know, we're focused on ensuring that they receive the most value from the technology investment the university has made, and all those technology providers across the entire university that they can apply to their research, their teaching and engagement activities. So, you know, obviously with that many partners, we have some challenges, but, you know, our dean, when this program was started, wanted faculty to be free from the limitations of knowing what's technology changes are happening, you know, where do I get it? How do I get it? And they implemented BRM as a way to address that, to really empower faculty to focus on the work that they need to do, get them the best tools, and not be bogged down in technology processes, things like that. So I'll stop there and let Brandon introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I'm Brandon Reese. I have been a BRM for about 4.5 years. I come from the finance world before that. I do not have a technical background. Mark surmised or summarized what we do pretty well. One thing I would add before we get into the slides here is to go back to the reference earlier about the ship. It's interesting that came up because I was thinking about a similar analogy not that long ago. And one thing I want to point out to a group of people that may not know exactly how BRMs operate is that we generally don't actually have any authority. We have influence and we have relationships. So to use that analogy, and thank you for that setup, I would liken what we do to a pilot, not of a plane, but of said ship. So in this example where our business partners are like a cargo ship and they would be faculty, and the port that they need to go to is the technology that they need, or vice versa, however you want to look at it. For most of whatever that journey is, the owner of those two things operate independently, but you need, when a large cargo ship comes into a port, a local pilot that knows the waters is who takes over. They're not in charge of the ship still runs, the captain is still there, but they have the innate knowledge of that connection point between those two things. So still working on that analogy, but thank you for the setup. Okay, with that, we'll click over to the next one here. There we go.
All right, so Michelle put together most of this presentation. I've added a few points to it. It's nothing fancy. We were really just trying to put some thoughts together. So, you know, we want it to be rather informal, and please ask any questions along the way. But Michelle, since you really did most of this, I'm going to let you get us started.
Yeah, and really kind of to the historical context and the evolution of BRM, as you stated, as to how Purdue introduced, you know, so the faculty doesn't, you know, get into the weeds on trying to figure out, you know, the technology side of it. They get to do their faculty role and engage with someone who can get them to the technology side of that. You know, last year we did a poster at Educause, and one of the main things to think of also of a BRM is the bridging the gap between whoever your functional customer is to technology. That's you know, also part of what is needed. And it's, as technology, we're never going to get the final version of anything. Or if we do, we all know that product is being sunsetted and something new is coming out, right? So the role of a BRM is to stay in the know, be in the meetings, be connected to the technology side, know what your list is of product or solutions are, to be able to help the functional team out. Be able to get into meetings with functional teams as well, get invited to whatever those are. Either you create BRM meetings just for them, or get you know, create your own, or get into meetings they're already having so people don't feel they're inundated with meetings. Mark and Brandon, do you guys want to speak a little bit to the BRM Institute and certification that we have there?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So the BRM role itself, it's been around informally for a very long time. A lot of people have been doing that relationship role and focusing on IT strategy for a long time. The Institute itself just formed like 10 and a half years ago. I think it was in 2013, because we just celebrated, well, it was probably a little before that, but about 10 years, the BRM Institute was created. And that was a couple of really bold thought leaders, Vaughn Merlin and Aaron Barnes, their names. They basically put some definition to the BRM role and created the BRM Institute. So the Institute, you can think of it as similar to the Project Management Institute. They are the keepers of knowledge globally. They set the standards for certification of BRMs and give it, some more of a formal framework. And they also conduct a yearly conference. It's a global BRM conference that, it's an opportunity for all BRMs to get together and hear from other BRMs, thought leaders, direction of the Institute, that type of thing. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think for this group, some definitions of key terms that your business relationship management team may use are helpful. We've mentioned business partner. We'll also say things like technology partner. These definitions, as well as levels of certifications and such, are all created and held by that Business Relationship Management Institute. When Mark mentioned that our business partners are faculty, other BRMs that you may encounter, their business partner might be enterprise IT or human resources, or in Michelle's case, it sounds like everything else. They generally, the business relationship manager is going to do what they do for the benefit of that person that is in that definition, that business partner. Anyone else that we may, in our case, navigate and connect with, like research computing, or whether it be, in Michelle's case, the parking administration, like whatever it is, we consider those technology partners. That is just part of the definition. That is part of the knowledge that the Institute keeps. There are 3 levels of certification. You may see the letters BRMP, which is the first level of business relationship management, parentheses professional. Level 2, and BRMP is by far the most common certification that I see. I don't know what the exact numbers of participants or those that have passed the test are. Certified business relationship manager is the 2nd level, and it's more applied than definition. And there is a master's of business relationship manager certification that very few people have, and I'm lucky to sit next to one that does. Additional terms that may pop up when you're having these conversations with BRMs are going to vary by your institution, right? They're going to have their own version of what they call things, but those are the core things that I think if I were not a BRM trying to understand what it is that person does would help me. So that's my bit there.
The BRM domain is on there, and that's just because I want to mention that BRM does not exclusively exist within the technology domain. Right. It's probably 99% of them, but you can also have an HR BRM, a finance BRM. So those folks that are focused on relationships between the finance department and all those business partners that they serve. So it's not just exclusive to information technology. So, and then the big thing, it's relationship focused. I mean, it is all about creating, positive relationships that unlock a lot of capability, a lot of potential for, we'll just stick with technology, for IT in this case, to gain understanding, to gain insight, to create working relationship that creates much greater productivity and interaction between business partners and those in the domain that the BRMs represent. So, and the BRM is, you're representing and you build relationships with both technology partners and business partners. That's really important, shouldn't be overlooked, because if you don't have a good relationship with the technology partners, if they don't understand your role and function, which that's typically, it doesn't just happen. It takes time to build that understanding and trust, but you're building those relationships with both partners, because in the end, you're going to need that in order for both your technology providers and your business partners to be successful. So,
Excellent. I want to point out Marlene Lamont with the BRM Institute has joined us as well today. She was able to break away, and you might see some of her chats and comments in there that yes, over 10,000 BRMs in the past 10 years with BRMPs, that means certified in the past 10 years. So that's excellent.
Thanks, Marlene.
Yeah.
Hello, sorry, I was delayed there. But hi, Marlene Lamont. I've been with BRM Institute since 2015. And I am honored to be here today. I apologize, I was in another meeting, but it's kind of nice to sneak in and sort of get the ninja stealth, approach to a presentation, because I think Mark and Brandon and Michelle have put something really great together for you guys. And I just want to say, I know that there's focus here with project management, and it's not what you're called, it's what you do. And as project managers, business relationship management skills are incredibly important for you guys to be able to achieve your own goals and achieve your own strategic plans with your projects. So we are 100% behind project managers, business analysts, business architects, whoever is having a focus of relationships in their job to learn the skills and understand what BRM is. From a structural perspective, it gives you, structure behind having relationships in the workplace, and drives strategic vision and purpose and continuous improvement in making sure that you are achieving the goals that you have set forth in your organizations. So happy to answer any questions you have, but so yeah, I was just typing in in the chat some of the things that off of what Mark and Brandon and Michelle were saying. And I have a big thing to say is, it's not what you're called, it's what you do. And if you focus on relationships, then your title doesn't matter. So don't let the BRM title, and you see BRM responsibilities and BRM domain, don't let that sway you from what it is that the actions are, because it's what you do, it's not what you're called. And I'm here to answer any questions if anyone has anything for me.
Yeah, thanks, Marlene. That's a really good point. The Purdue team has helped coach a lot of new higher ed BRM teams, and even outside higher ed. And one of the things that we've taken away is that there are a lot of people that don't have the title BRM doing BRM work. And conversely, there are some people with the BRM title that are not. The role clarity is a ongoing source of differentiation and maybe consternation that your BRM team and your organization is probably dealing with on a regular basis as well. So I think we'll touch on that here on this slide a little bit.
Yeah, it's, the BRM is focused on relationships. We don't own all relationships though. We understand that, because, there are people within our organization that, they are in a position and have developed really strong relationships with key partners. And, we don't want to interfere with that. We want to make sure that we utilize that for the benefit of everybody, and not get in the way or try to, take over that. We want to leverage what we have in place. So, it's not all the relationships are owned by BRM. We certainly don't see that. And we also coach like support teams, develop teams on how to focus on building their relationships, because ultimately, I see success when I'm able to bring a technology partner and a business partner together, and they're really able to work effectively. And a lot of times that means they've developed a really strong relationship. And when they do that, you have much greater possibilities for doing something really awesome because they have a really strong relationship. So, I love to see those things happen. So in the next slide here, Michelle, looks like you're ready to jump in, so we'll give you a chance.
Yeah, and so here at Kansas State University, again, I've been the BRM role for a year, brought in 30 years of technology experience. I just naturally happen to have a relationship building ability, and it's worked out really well. For instance, to give you an example, there are two departments. That one department was making changes in how they processed what they received from the other department without communication to the other department. Being in their regular meetings and having the BRM monthly meetings with them, I was able to realize that and then facilitate communication and a relationship between these two departments. And that allowed no one to be taken off guard, if you will, and everyone to be in the know of the change of process. And then even Ed and I served together due to a cybersecurity incident. Ed and I served together. He was the PM on the project. I was the BRM. And we were able to serve on a project and bring clarity to a very convoluted process that we had to bring back up, but bring clarity to the group as a whole. And then even perform a retroactive assessment of it. Kind of a touchy-feely thing, and how was this? That then will get further attention and has the recognition to be brought in more as a administrative strategic. The result of that is the review of it to realize and find a better solution for that process, which had like 15 steps in it that we had to go through and bring back to life. And so those are the kind of things that people don't realize there's and it's not just the BRM, but you do connect and help bring some of those together, or talk about the things that are difficult, talk about the elephant in the room, if you will, as an analogy. And so that's kind of like the connector and facilitator of it. And then you become a trusted advisor. So trusted advisor, for instance, I was unexpectedly out this Monday and Tuesday, and I came in. I had been watching email, but this email came through from a department asking for assistance. And how can you help us get what we need? One of the things that when I started, and with the assistance of the others here with me, is when they start knocking on your door, or when they start asking you, can we, have a BRM involvement and have you help with that? That is a win, is when they realize what you're doing, what you're offering, and how you can help them, because they've seen it from what you've done with other departments as a result of that. Is there anything else, Mark and Brandon, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say that, trusted advisor is great if you can get beyond that and become what we call a strategic partner.
Mhm.
That's the kind of the pinnacle of where you would hope you to go. It's certainly not easy, and we don't have that very often, even though we've been doing this for a long time. I think it's something that you want to just continue to strive for. Trusted advisor is a pretty good place to be, but strategic partners even a little more.
So from a project manager standpoint, if you're working with a BRM or BRM team, I think something that's critical is that you understand what success looks like for them. It's different for every team, but in our example here in higher ed, success looks like us successfully facilitating something that added value. Right? Did we move the needle in some way? For us, it's, Mark mentioned, research, teaching, engagement activities for our faculty, but also success for those on-campus technology partners. Did we avoid duplication of effort? Did we get partner A to partner B way faster than they otherwise would have been able to, or at all? I think one of the one of the reasons I hear new BRM teams come up, especially in a higher ed setting, is campus is too big and nobody knows where anything is, or some much more flowery way of saying just that. So can you, as the BRM, help navigate the right people to the other right people and utilize those relationships to make everything just a little bit better? And as Mark mentioned, getting to that like strategic partner, telling your story is something that we're big advocates of, and we have a variety of tools and mechanisms we've used to talk about our success stories, which I think is actually on the next slide, but I'll segue it. When you have people start telling your story for you, right? Michelle mentioned someone knocking on your door because they've seen what the BRM team has done for whoever else. When people start telling your story for you when you're not in the room, it's generally a good thing. And you don't get there fast, you don't get there with every partner or every time. But the more you do, the more you go from what does BRM really do here to, oh yeah, we should get the BRM team to help with this thing before we start it. For us, that actualizes in a way of, hey, I'm thinking about putting in a grant for this. Would you help me write the technology section? Versus the normal IT, I guess, reactiveness, which is, hey, I have this thing or I've bought this thing, make it work, right? Like that is how a lot of higher ed and large organization IT systems seem to function, is reactive. When you're really doing BRM right, you're helping to be out in front of those so that you're omitting some of those duplication of effort or incompatibility or needing someone to buckle down and do a sprint for 2 weeks to make the thing that was presented to them work. Again, that's not every time, but that might give you all some context as to not only how we do what we're doing, but why we're doing it. Jump.
All right, we're going to keep moving so we get through this and we have time for questions.
Yep.
So strategic focus, BRMs, essential skills, the BRM needs, that we need to be empathetic. We need to be able to put ourselves in the position of our partners. We need to be really strong collaborators, someone that can recognize those opportunities when, we're better together. Transparency, we want to make sure that we don't do something that causes us to lose trust. So transparency is a really good way to do that. Sometimes that's can be uncomfortable, but it's really important. Be innovative in ways that we look at things. Obviously, we need to be strong communicators with the variety, different levels of individuals that we're going to be talking to. We already talked about training and professional development. And I think the differences between BRMs and project manager, that was able to talk about that a little bit in the agile section of today's meeting. But BRMs are focused on more on the relationships and the strategic looking out long term and ensuring value for our business partners. So I know project managers also want to do that too, but they're I think more focused on creating something, driving results in order to complete objective A or objective B that's going to create something of value. BRMs are looking at that to try and help ensure that value doesn't fade away during the process. We want to make sure that the value that everyone sees going into a project is what comes out the other side, and a BRM is going to be looking at that. And then I'm going to throw it over to Michelle for how BRMs complete other roles within the PMO, because honestly, in our organization, we don't interact with project managers that often. Just the nature of our faculty partners and the way projects are, it's not generally focused on a faculty level. It's more at the enterprise level, which is not where we operate. So I'll drop that to Michelle.
No problem. Great job, guys. Yeah, so at Kansas State University, the BRM role is within the office of the PMO, the Project Management Office. And being in the meetings, we have weekly stand-ups with the PMBAs and the BRM. Again, being part of the conversation, knowing what projects or what analysis is happening and the importance of it, and then especially as it pertains to the groups that you're working with, you know. And so I'll pick up information from the meetings with the groups that I'm in, be able to cross share that and make sure the teammates on the PMO are aware of the happenings and what's said, and then vice versa. I'll get to hear more nitty gritty from my PMO teammates as to what's going on in a project or what humps they might see, and where can the BRM fit in to help, should there be anything like that or anything else that need worked on or needs focused on. All
Yeah,
right.
that's
Yeah.
I was going to say that's a good example of the differences there. And I know I'm maybe speaking for myself here, but as I interact with other BRMs, especially in higher ed, I find that this continues to be true and that there's no normal path to BRM. So very few people were able to say at an early stage in their career, hey, I want to be a BRM, primarily because, as we mentioned, in practicality, it's only really been a decade and change old. But that doesn't mean that your level of experience and expertise can vary. And whereas a project manager, in my experience, probably has a lot of insight and knowledge about whatever the thing that they're doing. They're sort of the gatekeeper and the cat herder of getting that project done and on time. The BRM, at least this BRM, does not have a highly technical background. So if you ask me to talk about specs or installation issues, things like that, my role is going to be to get you to that expert. So I may not know what the thing is at its core, but I probably know the person who does. So as you're interacting with other BRMs, I guess cut them a little slack if they don't appear to necessarily know all of the ins and outs of the thing you're working on, and reframe this as how you can complete one another's roles, which is that last bullet point there. Where is this complementary? And it's complementary in that they can leverage the existing relationships that they already have in order to help you do what you need to do more efficiently. Be that shave time off, get you to the right person, ask questions that maybe no one else would ask in the room because everyone else already knows everything. I am often the person in the room that says, hey, I don't know what that is. Can you tell me? In my 4 years in IT, I've gleaned that is not a customary response, even though statistically not everyone in the room actually knows all the stuff. So the BRM can be there as that facilitator that can also help open doors to conversations. And I think that's something that we don't need to lose sight of here.
Yeah, I think for us, it's important to be about an inch deep across all the technologies, technology providers, technology expertise. We need to know enough to understand when we hear a keyword that like, oh, it said this, well, that leads me to, technology provider, technology resource, A. And is that an opportunity for us to bring those two together in order to make our business partners more successful? So although we don't, like I said, we don't get very deep, but we need to know the entire organization, as much as we can about everything that's out there. It's just about an inch deep. And so we're constantly going to places and being in places where we hope we will learn something that will be useful later. So we gather a lot of business intelligence about our business partners, about our technology partners. That's really important because you never know when those things are going to come together and create an opportunity. So, all right, we'll go to the next slide. All right, skill sets and competencies. All right. Role of BRMs aligning business and IT objectives. So I see this as being something where, oftentimes, what our business partners doing is, not being communicated across the board for, what technology providers are doing. And, sometimes they come together in a great alignment, but that's generally not going to happen unless you have someone like a BRM that's focused on understanding those things. I'm going to jump to the bottom here. That's one of our examples of this, and the thing that says PASD, it's our Precision Animal Sciences Data Ecosystem that was developed because I had a sidewalk conversation with a faculty member that got an idea started, and we were trying to formulate how we create this, and then I saw a request ticket. It was a very simple ticket asking for, how do I get data from an external resource, a very large dairy operation? How do I get it back to Purdue so I can use it in my research? And I saw an opportunity there because we were talking about this other thing that was we called it a data lake at the time. And how do we create this, and what do we use as a business case or a real world example of how this could be utilized? And those two things came together, and they were a perfect match. And over the next year and a half, they built this precision animal sciences data ecosystem. And after it was built and they started using it, I went back to our faculty partner and to understand what this really meant to his research. And he was telling me about all the grants that this allowed him to get, all the students that were being educated because they had this real world data, all the partners that they were attracting, all the jobs that their graduates were getting because they worked on real world data. And so that's one of those situations where things just come together, and that would have never happened without the knowledge of what's happening on the IT side and happening in our business partner side, and what they're trying to achieve.
Mark's example there is a great one. You don't have to be at that maximum maturity, trusted advisor, strategic partner. That's just knowledge. One of the things that BRMs are fortunate to be able to do is spend part of their work time doing research into things like general technology evolution. That example there is a great example of demand shaping, I think, where in the right context, a BRM can be out in front of a potential problem, a potential opportunity or solution, and help bring the right question, whether it be a research question or an efficiency question. They can help phrase that and frame that in a way to get them to the right people, or bring it to a committee or whoever needs to make a decision earlier in the process, so that we can get the maximum benefit from whatever the activity is. And you only do that through having those relationships and knowing as much as possible, but not, a mile deep. I like the inch deep, mile wide analogy for that.
So we are a few minutes past but wanted to know if we wanted to say anything else kind of high level, Mark and Brandon, to share with them that's really burning, and field some questions from the group.
Yeah, I think we could go right to questions if we have some.
I guess my question for the group of people that potentially aren't BRMs is, was this helpful in some way? Does this help shed some context? I'm open for feedback.
And while we're waiting on that, I'll mention the ideation. I know ideation is something that the project managers are concerned with. The BRM role tries to get that visibility and involvement in ideation really, really early. So, it's why we go to places where our business partners are that you typically, you may not think of. Informal settings for us when they're in the field, doing their research. And when I say field, I mean real field, cornfield or a bean field, where they're doing their research and having conversations, because it's oftentimes in those situations where they verbalize, what's the real, vision is, or what their, challenges are, you know, what they're really struggling with. And those are the opportunities where those ideas are blossoming, and we can get those back to work with our partners, and they can work through those things together. That really, you know, it makes that whole process much more effective. It happens quicker. It happens without the stops and starts that might happen if things were happening independently without the advice of a technology provider. So I think we have a question.
Okay.
That's just me promoting your community group on Connect.
Nope, thank you.
you.
You're welcome. Direct link there, and we'll post it again in the library with all the presentation materials. There is a question though that got buried. I don't know if you see Edwin.
I see a question here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to scroll up who that's from.
Edwin?
Yeah, Edwin. Okay, any suggestion on how to best implement central BRM role when technical teams have already developed relationships with their customers? As I said earlier, you know, that's great that they have relationships, but those technical teams are focused on operations. You generally are not focused on the business partners for, you know, getting a deep understanding of what they're doing, where they're going, what their challenges are. And that's an opportunity for BRM, because BRM, if you're lucky, I know not all BRMs have this, some other, you know, have non-BRM roles that they have to also do, but a BRM should be focused on, you know, understanding that business partner, building that relationship, and creating value with technology for them, and not be pulled away for, you know, system went down, or we've got to develop this and that. You know, it's great that there's a good relationship there, but there's, I believe, unless there's something that I don't understand, there's going to be an opportunity for BRM to improve the success of that partner and the technology organization by understanding more deeply, you know, what they're doing.
Yeah, I would add to that if you can and you have the opportunity, spend a good chunk of time every week, every month, whatever, learning that business partner's needs, not just what they do, what they produce. You mentioned like what are the needs of Central? What is the mission? I encourage every BRM team to have like a 1-sentence statement, like a mission statement or a purpose statement or something like that. And then it enables you to do everything through that lens. So if you can, spend time with the business partner. Not everyone gets to go to a cornfield. Fully understand that. It's Indiana and it's summer, so not everyone has to go to a cornfield. There's two sides to that. However, where you can, learn what you can about what they see the next 5 years looking like. What are their dreams about how things could work if only X and Y and Z were true? You may not be able to solve for that, but it enables you to start building that relationship so that when something between the groups that you mentioned there potentially comes up, you can say, oh, we've already talked about this, or you should talk to this person. And that is how you start to break in from the outside and become part of that, but aren't then not seen as like duplication of effort or just a point of escalation. Those are kind of pitfalls that BRMs can kind of get sucked into. Yeah, I think that's all I have for that.
So we've posted quite a few things here in the chat for you all to click on. Thank you, Ed, for posting the BRM, the Educause BRM site. I encourage you all, we have a lot of recordings that we put out there. Haven't had the chance to be as fancy as you all are in putting it on a YouTube channel. That we do have our prior presentations and recordings of those that we encourage you to go and view. They are really, really good. We have Brandon has presented. We have other professionals that have presented as well that are well known across our BRM community, like Peter Lindsay and Jeff Warren. if those are names that you may have heard or not. So we do encourage you to do that. I also shared link to our LinkedIn higher ed group that we spoke of earlier, and of course BRM. And then today, the BRM Institute has a summer sale going on of a fundamentals course. And that course is generally attended by administration or those wanting to learn how to get a better understanding of BRM and how it can work for your institution or your organization.
Yeah, I see Brian,
Hey, Brian, what's up?
got his hand up.
Yeah, actually, I think the question you took from Ed already addressed kind of the beginning of my question was, right, so where we are at the University of Buffalo is we have a portfolio management office, strategic portfolio management office made up of relationship managers and some project managers as well. And, so we've been working on developing the relationship manager role. And so this has been very helpful, very informative. But, as Ed said, of course, we have some pretty strong relationships within our enterprise application systems group with our functional customers. As you said, that's kind of operational. We need to focus on strategic. Where do you guys see that happening? Meaning, like, let's take financial systems or enrollment management. Do you dive into, certainly there's a conversation with those areas and saying, where are you going? What are you doing? What are your problems, right? But also, how do you guys look at the technology that's out there at a high level to say, okay, what solutions are possible? What are other schools doing? Is that stuff you dive into?
To a certain degree, yes. I mentioned the time that I get to spend doing research into just general technology. It doesn't necessarily have to be agriculture focused. A couple of months ago, I sat down and took the IBM Skillshare, like generative AI primer class. It was 10 hours, right? And I did it over a course of a few weeks. In that example, I have a finance background. So if I put myself in the shoes of someone in that role, having a BRM to help navigate, say, a sales pitch from SAP. Like, do you want to install SAP? Do you want to move all of your AP and AR directly into whatever this is? That is a place for a BRM to be out in front of that conversation, knowing that the business partner potentially needs that. Like 5 years ago, I thought that most of accounts receivable and payable at the university could be done by AI. I just didn't have the words for it. And now I know it can't be. But they're not having those conversations, right? They're still physically touching, and I'm not kidding, tens of thousands of sheets of actual paper a day across this whole university to pay bills. There's an example of, if I were a BRM for finance, I could say, hey, this is a need we may have, and take it on myself as to go explore those options without necessarily doing like a full engagement or RFP or something like that. So I think to answer your question, yes, you can be out there. And I think it's something that your business partner would find valuable, even if they don't go with whatever it is you may or may not recommend. Just knowing that you're doing it also helps cement that relationship.
Brian, for you, and you're just starting that program. So I went through that. We were just starting BRM program when I joined, and we met with all of our technology partners, and to help explain the role, understand what they offered, how we can help them, what were their goals, how can we help them with promoting their technology, their resources, and then with each business partner, you also need to have that meeting where you explain your role, you explain what your goals are for that relationship, how you want to be seen as a strategic partner, that's understanding that you have to earn that. You don't just step into it and say, hey, I'm your strategic partner. You have to earn that trust and elevate yourself to that point, over time by getting small wins. As you do that, they will trust you with more things. You can continue, that journey to become a partner. But understanding meeting with those partners is important. And just setting that foundation for that you as a group and as a BRM team. So.
Good. Great, thank you.
Yep.
We're being.
Yeah, I think we're about out of time here, aren't we?
We are at the other end of this session, so thank you so much. This is an awesome opportunity for two community groups to partner together and show some other things that project managers might want to think about, consider. So thank you so much for your time and effort in putting together this presentation, Michelle, Mark, and Brendan. Really appreciate it. Didn't have a whole lot of time, but that's fine. I wanted the time for the questions, so I'm totally cool with this. Do check that chat real quick before you sign off. There is a schedule of our meetings coming up. Then I'll let that post in that chat convey the meaning. There it is, right there for you to consume. So cool. Everyone have a great day and a great rest of your week too.
Please connect with us if you want to continue the conversation. Have any questions? I'm on LinkedIn. Mark Sullivan BRM, I think is / Mark Sullivan BRM. Brandon's there too. We're at Purdue University if that helps you find us.
Thanks again.
All righty.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Great seeing all the
Bye.
peeps.